With regards to the correlation between atheism and communism, it would be fallaciously simplistic to claim that atheism is the only motivating factor behind communism, and yet it is certainly a major factor and the very premise upon which communist ideology was built.
No, the communist ideology was based on the idea of a classless society, and communism, Mariano, should not be capitalized.
While politics isn't my area of expertise, I can tell you this much. In an ideal communist society, private ownership has been abolished. Instead, everyone shares everything, to each after his needs. People do not work in order to accumulate material wealth, but to serve society. As such, there is no need for money. There's no wealth and no poverty. There are no social classes. An ideal communist society has no actual state. What we mean by communist state is a state undergoing a transition into a classless society. Such a state is a dictatorship run by a single party. Technically, this isn't communism, but Leninism or some other form of one-party socialism. In reality, that's as far as anyone has ever come. No nation has ever actually become a true communist nation. Communist leaders, that is, the leaders of this supposedly temporary period of dictatorship, tend to oppose religion because, for one, they think that people should serve society exclusively and not their imaginary sky daddies. For another, religion has historically been a tool used by the upper classes to control the lower classes. As such, it is thought to have no place in a classless society.
I'm sure people who know more about the subject than I do will think that I butchered this completely, but they will agree with me that atheism is not the foundation of communism. It's not even a necessary part of it.
With that said, it might be prudent to go over the reason why so many dishonest theists link communism and atheism. See, the United States is a capitalist society where most people are theists. The Soviet Union was a communist state, as explained earlier, that opposed religion. Because of the political tension between the US and the Soviet Union, Americans made religion, Christianity specifically, part of their idea of patriotism. If you don't believe in God, you're not a proper American. Theistic belief became something of a social requirement. Under God was added to the Pledge of Allegiance. In God we trust was added to the money. Despite the Cold War ending more than 20 years ago, this link between capitalism and theism remains a significant part of American culture. Look at other capitalist states, and by capitalist I simply mean states with open markets. You don't find the same connection. Sweden's a perfect example. Here, religion is regarded as something outdated, something related not to freedom, individual rights, or patriotism, but to medieval dictatorship, if anything political at all. I think most Swedes would say that religion is completely unrelated to politics, though. The prevailing opinion is that religion should be something strictly personal. Instead, it's secularism that we would relate to democracy and individual liberty, and that even goes for most of the religious among us.
Outside America, dishonest theists adopt the American model because it suits their interests. Like their American counterparts, they try to link atheism with the crimes committed in the pursuit of the ideal communist society. They fail because the argument it all boils down to is neither valid nor sound.
Communism implies atheism. Premise 2, X is an atheist. Conclusion, therefore X is a communist. Premise 1 is false, and the conclusion affirms the consequent. Even if communism implies atheism, atheism would not necessarily imply communism. The best response that atheists have been able to muster against the logical, ideological, and historical correlation between atheism and communism is to state that since atheism is merely a lack of belief in gods, it does nothing, inspires nothing, and therefore is responsible for nothing.
Wow, I'm impressed. Mariano got something right!
Firstly, this is only one conveniently self-serving definition of atheism.
but it is the definition that applies to all those who adopt the label, and it is the definition that you acknowledged in Chapter 1, Mariano. It's the definition of the position that you are arguing against.
Secondly, even granting the lack of belief in God's interpretation of atheism, we note that this makes atheism a blank canvas upon which each atheist, communist leader or not, can paint a particular worldview of their choosing and completely unrestrained by any gods.
Exactly! So we agree! Thank you!
The communist leader paints a worldview in which he gets to murder people for not being perfect, selfless members of his utopian society where everyone is equal, except him. No one suffers, except those he doesn't like. And no one acts like a, well, human, except him. The politically liberal, secular humanist paints a completely different picture, where human life and personal liberty have great value and everyone is equal in terms of what rights they have, even if not necessarily in terms of how much money they earn. People are free to work for selfish reasons like the accumulation of material wealth, and the market essentially governs itself. Notice that these two atheists only really have one thing in common. They don't believe in a god. That's the one and only thing you can know applies to all atheists: the lack of belief in gods. The atheist community, if there even is such a thing, is divided into countless factions based on political and social views. We are not a single group of people. And there are theists I feel I have more in common with and more respect for than certain atheists. I think we can all say that. Mariano, atheism is not a religion, it's not a worldview, it's not a belief, it's not a political ideology.
Atheism is a lack of belief in gods. That's it!
I doubt that anyone who isn't an atheist has been able to sit through all of this. If you're a theist, congratulations. If you're a theist who believed that Mariano's article accurately portrayed atheism, wow, well then you either stopped watching a long time ago, or you are one of the greatest threats imaginable to Mariano and those like him. You're someone who will at least hear what the other side has to say. If you want to know something about atheism, ask an atheist, not a preacher. If you want to know what I believe, ask me. You can do that. I'm not dangerous, I don't eat babies, I don't worship the devil, I don't regard human life as worthless. I don't find my life meaningless. I have a sense of what's morally right and wrong, and you'll find that we probably agree in most cases, even if not in all. I don't pretend to deny God's existence because I want to sin, and it's not that I haven't heard that Jesus loves me. I don't believe in either of them, or any other god for that matter. I'm an atheist. One who does not believe in a god. The fact that I don't believe in ultimate rewards and punishments in some imaginary afterlife doesn't mean that I don't believe things matter. Even if they won't matter in a billion years, they matter here and now. Even if they don't matter to some imaginary super being, they matter to us. That's enough for me, and I can't understand why it's not enough for everyone else as well. And yes, I said I think the afterlife is imaginary, but no, this doesn't make my life feel any less meaningful. In fact, I think it's precisely what makes life valuable. It's what compels me to use what limited time I have in the best way possible. I don't believe in a god. That's all I mean when I say I'm an atheist. It doesn't say anything about what I do believe, what values I have, how I act, or what my life is like. The people that tell you that atheists are evil, depressed, depraved, immoral, devil-worshipping communist Nazis incapable of experiencing love or wonder, and who just pretend to deny God, are either misinformed, probably because they never bothered to actually listen to what an atheist has to say about anything, or they're lying in order to fool their mindless followers into staying blind and stupid. They're afraid that since they can't offer anyone a good reason to believe, knowledge of any alternative will lead people away from them. They keep their sheep in the fold with lies about the empty, meaningless, miserable life that they say atheism implies.
The purpose of this series has not been to deconvert anyone, but to help my fellow atheists answer the lies that people like Mariano keep telling about us. And perhaps, just perhaps, get that occasional theist to actually think about why he believes what he believes. If your beliefs are colored by this kind of misinformation, don't you think it might be a good idea to at least reevaluate them? Think about it. See ya.